Hello, my name is Jennifer Houston, and I'm an out entrepreneur.
Hello, Out Bosses. Rhodes Perry here, and welcome to this week's episode of The Out Entrepreneur, a weekly podcast where I get to interview today's most inspiring LGBTQ bosses crushing it in business. And on this week's episode, I am thrilled to introduce you to Jennifer Houston, who's calling us all the way from sunny Los Angeles. So Jennifer, welcome to the show. Are you ready to inspire fellow Out Bosses?
I am.
Yes, awesome. Well, I'm excited to have you here. And for those of you who are not super familiar with Jennifer, she is a 20-plus year veteran in the marketing space that saw a breakdown of the ecosystem between the agency and brand relationship. Too many stories of burnout, layoffs, low margins, the inability to never say no, missed vacation, loss of passion, and zero work-life balance inspired Jennifer to start her business. So she and her business partner, Sarah Musgrove, problem solvers at heart, created The Bench, your marketing team for the gig economy. The Bench is a deconstructed agency that helps agency brands with in-house agency teams and startups with placing fully vetted teams constructed of all freelance talent. This gives The Bench the right people on the project to fit the needs of clients and of the ask versus who we have on payroll. So with that, Jennifer, thank you so much again for being on the show. To kick us off, why don't you tell us a little bit more about your business and what makes it unique?
Sure. Well, the point that I think that makes it unique is that we have the ability to win all different types of projects. They can be anywhere from $500 to $1 million. And with that, we're able to service our clients with the exact team for the project that they need and only use them for what they need, right? So with typical agencies, they look for AORs, which are, agencies of record. And they get these large contracts and they're able to say, all right, so we have this X amount of money coming in for this amount of time. So I can have 10 people working on that project and we'll go from there. Mm-hmm. But in this time, all brands are mainly project-based. So they're like, you have to keep pitching to win. So it's very hard for agencies to forecast, to understand how much talent they need, what type of talent, what category experts they need. And so it's become this balancing act of how do we service our client? How do we not burn our high performers out? And how do we say no if we don't know where our next project is coming from? So we're able to they can come to us and we can create mini teams for them to service their clients at a very high quality level. And then when they're done and they have no more responsibility to those people.
That sounds amazing. And also I have a lot of questions of how do you do that? How do you assemble the right teams? Do you mostly have contract workers, or do you have dedicated full-time staff, or do you have partnerships with other agencies? How does that work?
Sure. So hence our name, The Bench. We have a bench of freelancers that we can go to and utilize whenever a project comes in. Sarah and I, as I mentioned in the bio, have been in this business for quite some time. Right now, we have around 350 people on the bench that Sarah and I have either worked with in our past lives or someone has recommended them very highly. So we know all of the personalities, the expertise, the type of work they do. So we really provide kind of a white glove service for our agency and brand clients that have a need that we don't place people for just the task. We place them with their personalities and the work style and the workflow to make sure that we're getting the right fit and they can kick ass every time.
Nice. And so 350 people, 2 founders, how do you manage that kind of, it sounds huge, so how do you manage when you have a big project coming in, say it's a $500,000 project, how do you kind of take that amount of money and decide the number of people and then kind of the personalities on top of that?
Well, it's, like I said before, Sarah and I have run some pretty large agencies. I came from Omnicom, where I've run some very large holding company agencies to mid-sized agencies. So we know what it takes to run projects. We have producers and freelancers and people that we've worked with before that know they can come on and take that project lead role and set their team up to function. So once we get those leads placed and then we form the team below them, they start to run the program and Sarah and I just need to check in.
Nice. Cool. In the world of marketing and branding, considering that our audience is largely LGBT entrepreneurs, they own their businesses, What's one thing that you know that they may not know, but they ought to?
There's a lot of advantages to being LGBT in the business world these days, and especially if you're a woman-owned business. A lot of brands and agencies and companies really want to use diverse talent, and they want to come and they want to support I'm using air quotes here, the minority group, to kind of help them out. So really getting the word out and owning that within your marketing and who you are, to let people know that, hey, not only do we do amazing work, not only can we do it better than anyone else out there, you can check a couple boxes when you're out there and really give a minority agency the chance to show who they are. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's I don't really like that, but I love it in the chance that it gives you a chance when you normally wouldn't have it. And then you can come in and just show how you can destroy it, which is great.
Yeah. And so, you're speaking to the power of being a diverse supplier, for supplier diversity, people in corporations that have like these big operations of, we want to give a set number of contract dollars to folks other than straight, white, cisgender men, right? And how do we diversify our pipeline of contractors? And there's a lot of power in getting certified as an LGBT-owned business, as a woman-owned business, as a minority-owned business, as a person with disabilities, et cetera, and those at the intersections. And I do a lot of work in this space, and sometimes I'll connect with people. And in fact, this happened more recently on a panel. As afterwards, a woman came up to me, she identifies as a lesbian, and said, I really want to lead with my story, but I'm not sure how, because for so long I have not shared being a part of the rainbow family. How do I approach that? You're a branding specialist. What would you say to someone like that? Because, you even talked about a little bit of the hesitation of like, I don't really like doing this, and it's an opportunity. How would you coach someone like that?
Well, for me, it's if you're not owning it yourself, it's hard to brand it because it's inauthentic.
Yeah.
So the advice that I would give is that you have to look inside, and how do you present yourself with owning who you actually are as a person. Because if you're hiding it, it's not authentic. Yeah. And then it's not going to be real. And people can really see through that.
Yeah.
It just comes to the first question I would ask is, how open and willing are you to show who you really are? And once we do that, then we can create an identity.
I love that. Yeah. Just kind of owning aspects of who you are and then leading with that, provided that you're comfortable with it. And sounds really basic, and it's a good reminder, right?
And it's a lot harder than it sounds.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
It's a lot harder than it sounds.
Absolutely. So it sounds like, you kind of like hit the ground running. You came from an industry where you had a lot of relationships, and now you're a business owner, right? With your co-founder. As your business grows, how do you measure your impact and success when you're working with your clients?
I think we measure our success, not we think, I know. We measure our success with, one, the speed to market, how fast we can formulate a team and get the projects out, the quality of work, the win rate that we get from the projects that we do, or the organic growth that we get from the projects we do. And then from the freelancer side, it's about how we want to keep our freelancers as busy as possible, so we are of value to them as much as they are of value to us. Right. So, we do an exercise every year where we do our OKRs. And one of them was to keep our top 100 freelancers 3 or more gigs each year. Right. So it's about finding that balance of work that fits the right people, as well as putting as many people on a project that fit as possible, and utilize that over and over again. So they don't sign up for the bench and say, yeah, I did that, and they never talk to me, so don't do it. We want to be a value for everyone involved.
Yeah. And so recognizing that there's some folks who are new to the world of entrepreneurship, when you use the acronym OKR, what did you mean by that? No, that's okay. Just want to make sure everyone's still following along. Yeah.
Objectives and key results.
Gotcha. Okay.
Objectives and key results.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Thank you for that definition. So talk to us a little bit more about, in your bio, you were talking about just briefly, why you made the jump from working for another company doing marketing and branding to forming your own. Walk us through that origin story with a little bit more detail. I know that that's not just an easy transition to leave probably what was a great job, at least in terms of compensation and the respect that you have to really taking that risk on your own with your business partner.
Well, the funny thing is that for me, it actually was easy, because when I quit, I didn't know that I was going to be starting this business with Sarah. I was working at a company. I was an SVP at the company, which, yes, I had a very good salary, a very good vacation policy. But at the same time, about a year into my tenure at this place, my wife, who is an Olympic beach volleyball player, kind of decided, she played in the Beijing Olympics in 2008, had the opportunity to come back and train to go for Tokyo in 2020. So it's one of those things. I was an athlete in college and I had an injury and had to retire early. And I'm always like, if you can keep going, you have to do this, right?
Yes.
Like it's a dream. There's no way you can say no to this. So I lived down in Manhattan Beach and I was driving up to Hollywood every day, which, you know, was about an hour and a half each way. Only 12 miles, but welcome to LA.
Yep.
And I was leaving before my kids were up. We have 2 children. I was leaving before my kids were awake. And most nights I'd be home after they were in bed because at the time, they were 3 and 8 months. And the nanny was raising our kids. And I just said, this isn't right. This isn't the way life should be. So I went to my boss, who was a man, and I said, listen, I need to kind of rearrange my working schedule a little bit for while Nicole is gone and what's happening. And I said, so, you know, I can come in, I can be in by 8:30 every day, but I need to leave around 3 or 4 to be home, see my children. I'd like to feed them and put them to bed. And then I'll be back online because they're young. I'll be back online around 7 and I'll get all my stuff done. And he looked at me and he said, I knew if I would have hired a man, this never would have happened.
Whoa.
I was going on vacation 2 days later, and I never went back.
Yeah.
Not the greatest way to leave a job, but I was just done.
Yeah.
I was just done. And so I never went back, and I had some success in consulting in between. And a few months later, I saw that Sarah, who I had met at a previous job, we worked together and really hit it off, was leaving that job. And I reached out to her and I said, hey, let's grab coffee. And we did. And literally that day we were sitting on a bench overlooking the Pacific Ocean. And we talked about about the issues and all the things that I kind of wrote in the front of the bio of burnout, never being able to say no, not being able to forecast. And she's like, I've had a ton of ideas with this. And I looked at her and said, I wrote a whole deck on this. So we left that day and decided to go home and send each other what we both had written about our thoughts of how this new deconstructed agency model should look like. And then we agreed to meet back at that same bench a week later. And then we just kept meeting and doing proof of concept. And at one point we're like, we have like 4 people saying, when you guys get this up and running, we have business for you. So we looked at each other and I'm like, well, I guess we've started. And so it just kind of organically happened in this way that the bench was formed literally on a bench. Yeah. So that's kind of what happened.
Wow. So your previous boss's major loss and to your victory and getting up and running so quickly, you know, workplace culture really does matter. And obviously the experience of a guy who just was really tone deaf of losing a valuable, like highly talented employee for failure to create some flexibility in his schedule, which, you know, this day and age, you're working with contractors probably all over the world and doing this work, right? Yep. And there's a lot of flexibility in that. So like, talk to me a little bit more about what you're doing in your organization so that you don't replicate that kind of bad behavior. Like, how are you more self-aware, culturally intelligent of people who aren't exactly like you?
So for us, it's, here's the project. We need you to get it done by the date, but you can work around any way you can. I mean, we have 2 regional directors that work with us as well. One is in Chicago and one is in Nashville. And that's just because we found the people that we liked. It's not about where they're from. It's about these are the 2 people that we want to be on this journey with us and move from there. So I think that, you know, some people are like, we need people in New York. We need people or open an office here. The flexibility for what we're doing is as long as you have the right skill set and the right culture fit with what's happening, we don't care where you are or if you work all night or you work in the middle of the day or whatever you do, you're able to flex your schedule to the job needs and also to the needs of yourself as a person. And I think that that's the biggest thing is about, there's so many demands on people in their lives these days that a 9 to 5, which let's just throw that out. No one works 9 to 5, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a much longer work day that I just saw a study today that people that have been interviewed of how much time of your week is wasted in unnecessary things in a brick and mortar office, and the average is 60%. I mean, that's a ton of time of where you could be doing other things that one benefit you as a person, which I think corporate America and things have gotten so far away from that of growing individuals that work with them and understanding the value that that's going to have on their business versus making them just sit in these desks all day. Right? It's about let them go out into the world, get this experience that's going to value everyone involved. So that's just our approach. It's we're here to support you and to help you. We're not here to dictate who and what you do. You have this passion for this. It's why you're in this business, and we want to give you an opportunity to share your passion and do great work.
That's awesome. That's great. Hey, Outbosses, Rhodes Perry here. As you all know, part of my passion for this podcast is to empower you and fellow LGBTQ entrepreneurs to cultivate a feeling of purpose and belonging in your business, to know you can show up and be the most authentic version of yourself. Purpose, belonging, and workplace culture are concepts I take seriously in my own consulting practice. I'm dedicated to growing the belonging movement to empower leaders just like you, from the largest organizations to the smallest, to build healthier workplaces. That's why I'm thrilled to announce the Belonging at Work Virtual Summit. I'm taking the excitement of an in-person conference into the online world so that we can all participate, no travel required. The summit will feature in-depth conversations with dozens of today's leading diversity, equity, and inclusion thought leaders who will share their knowledge, skills, and stories so that we can all build our confidence in how to build more inclusive cultures in our organizations. This summit invites you to join these courageous conversations about radical inclusion, the future of work, the role of allies and accomplices, the power of sharing our diversity stories, and how we as change agents can take more care of ourselves so that we can be more effective ambassadors for change and belonging. To learn more, visit belongingatworksummit.com and register for free. Yes, that's free today. Again, that is belongingatworksummit.com. Together, let's grow the belonging movement. When you were talking about it's finding the right people, like the culture fit piece, what are some of the, how do you evaluate that?
Well, I think it's the need, right? So we've been doing a lot of work with an agency that's doing a lot of B2B, which is business to business work in Abu Dhabi. And so, we find people that are a little more subdued, a little more buttoned up, not kind of crazy. They think in a very 1, 2, 3, 4 way versus some creative directors that we have that are just out there. And I love, we love them, but they would not fit that at all, right? They'd be too out there. Their ideas would be too crazy. Their personality they wouldn't fit with the client, right? Because they're all business, they're all this. But then we have other clients where we do work for like super cool brands that really want the crazy, the wacky ideas. We did an RFP response for Twitter. And so like with that one, it's no hold barred, right? You need to cut through the clutter and have that noise. And so it's about figuring out the asks, the audience, as well as the client and how all of those pieces are going to fit in and putting the personalities first and then the tasks that follow of what that person is going to need to do. So that's really how we approach each project. There's no these people are available so they get the project. Every single person is handpicked.
Thank you for sharing that. That makes a lot of sense. And it sounds like then having 350 people within your bench really makes sense because it sounds like going from Abu Dhabi to Twitter, really different cultures, and
absolutely
having the right people there definitely helps. When did you officially open?
We officially opened in April of last year.
Wow. All right. So that's still a good amount of time, to kind of see change. Where you're at right now, and as your business grows, is there anything that has surprised you about, where you started, where your expectations were, the initial goals that you set, and where you are today? And if so, what might that be?
We thought, and this is going to sound weird, but we thought it was going to be a lot harder to start kind of getting the ball rolling. We right now are at a scalability problem. It's why we've hired 2 regional directors, because people understand our model so fast I mean, we have like a 25-page deck. I never get past page 4 because they're like, I get it now. And the question, can you do this? How about this?
Nice.
And so we just kind of start having these amazing conversations. So I haven't been able to really go out and do business development because we need to be able to scale it and do the same quality of work, because that's what we're priding ourselves on, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not, we're just not throwing people at a problem. We want to take the time to make sure that we're doing it right. So I think the scalability, the ability to go out and really gain new clients, we thought it was going to be a slower process than it is. And I think that's something that we're really trying to adjust right now, and how we reorganize internally to make sure that we have that ability to scale faster than we are right now.
Yeah, I think that it's one of those things, and it's a good problem to have in some respects, where there is a high demand. Also, sometimes a high demand when you're just getting started can sometimes break things that, so where you're at, it definitely, I would love to have you come back maybe in like 3 years from now to talk about like this moment and how you grew from it and evolved, because it's, I hear that. I mean, in my own business, I feel like I'm at a crossroads with that too, of like, okay, there's a lot coming in. How do I manage that? Right.
Exactly.
So how do you then, I mean, this kind of might be part of how you kind of vet. What's your decision-making process to say yes to a project, and when do you find your no?
We say no if it's a project or a category we don't believe in. I mean, that's one great thing about Sarah and I owning this. If it's a product or something that we don't like, tobacco, we probably wouldn't do tobacco, or something like that, of where we don't believe in it, we would say no.
Awesome.
We would say no if we don't feel we have the right people that can do it. If the people that we think are the perfect match for it aren't available, we would say no, because that, again, it's about, we want everyone to have a very good experience the first time out with us, because some people are they get it. They're very apprehensive about it at first because they're so used to the other way of doing things, that we want to make sure that we're nailing it right out of the gate.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think the only other way we would say no is if we don't think we can do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. We're not gonna say yes and then figure it out. We don't really build the plane in the air. We want to know that we can do it every time.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like that's a very thoughtful approach. And I love that you lead with values, right? Of just kind of going back to what's in alignment with your shop, and really kind of drawing a line around things that just don't align or don't light you up. And and I guess with that, kind of just for this last set of kind of really business focused questions is, what's making your heart sing these days? Like, what's the one thing right now, every day that you wake up, that you're like most excited about when it comes to building your business?
I think just the opportunity. It's the opportunity, and like you said, where we're going to be, not this weekend, but next weekend.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing our 2020 fiscal planning and just planning for the year, where we're going to bring everyone together and do our OKRs, our objectives and key results for what we all want to accomplish next year.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be the first time since we started the bench that we have this big group. Sarah and I just set those by ourselves last year, right? And now we have all these other people, and we're bigger, and we're taking on more clients, and just that opportunity of figuring all that out and doing it together. We're going to revisit our values and our mission with everyone together, because we are a community of how this works. And it's not just Sarah and I anymore. And we want to make sure that fits the founding group of who we are, and move it forward. So I think just the opportunity of having a full year under our belt and having all these other amazing people to share it with and grow with and build it with is something that really gets me excited every time I think about it.
Yeah. There's something, I mean, well, one, I can't believe that we're at the place of the year where we're thinking about the next year, but
I know,
but that's where we are, right? At the same time, there's some magic behind that of really, it's almost like intention setting, and having the clarity, just the luxury of having a day or however much time you've set aside to do this, to not just do it with yourself, it's with your team. All of the ideas and kind of building off of each other's ideas, magic will happen for sure. And I can see where there's a lot of excitement in that, because I mean, it sounds like you're really growing in a great way. And just to kind of focus, what's like, what are the top 2-3 things that you want to see next year that will really, show that you're having success or that you're on the right path? And the fact that you get to do that with your colleagues that's a lot of fun. So I could see why that's making your heart sing. Well, I wanted to pivot and talk a little bit more about, what brings you to the Rainbow family in the context of the workplace. And knowing that you haven't always been an entrepreneur, you've worked for other companies as an employee. I'm curious if there is a particular moment where it was difficult for you to show up 100% as your fabulous rainbow self in the workplace. And if so, what might have been that moment that was difficult to be your authentic self, and how did you work around it? And I like asking this question just because I know that there are a number of folks who tune into the show that are still kind of navigating how out they can be either in their own business or as they're thinking about starting a business, wherever they're working right now.
Sure. I hear you. For me, I never really had an issue. I always joke that, I have my face with me all the time, so it's never really a secret that I'm a lesbian. It's kind of funny, but I worked in the beer industry for a very long time, and especially in Texas, where it's not really that open of a situation where you can be. So I think that there's times where I've had to pretend I'm someone I'm not, where I wasn't openly hiding it. I just was omitting a lot about my life and what was happening. And that was a very, very uncomfortable situation for me.
Yeah.
I was in a situation down in there where, it was all of the Bud girls and the Miller Lite girls and all of that stuff where like just the misogyny was sinking through and the stuff was happening. And all the guys were, they were talking, how guys talk, and especially beer guys, of what's happening. And, they were saying some derogatory things about women and about gay women and lesbians. And at that point, I just decided that enough was enough. And I came out right there and I said, listen, this is unacceptable. And these people that you're talking about are me. And I think I just kind of made a promise to myself that I was never really in the closet. In any work situation that I was in from the time, I came out when I was 22.
Yeah.
Everyone knew from that point forward that I was gay. But there were times where I wouldn't disclose on purpose, right? I would omit. I would omit things from my life or not share things from my life. And I just decided that, again, for me to be authentic and for me to be my best self at work or anywhere that I was, I had to live that and share my truth with everybody, even if it made them uncomfortable. Because me living that way was detrimental to me and uncomfortable for me. And that wasn't fair.
Yeah, and that's a hard example to share. It's also really helpful, where we're at, which is we don't just come out once. We have to come out again and again because we're assumed to be straight or we're assumed to be cisgender or all of those things. And most of the folks who are tuning into the show are not, right? So definitely what you're sharing resonates. And it also is like, it's this idea of the Nielsen continuum where it's like you're implicitly out, you've done it before. But in that context of being with the Bud Light girls and these kind of gross guys who are not aware of what they're saying, or maybe they are, and that's even worse, right? But for you to have to endure that and then really, just that act, as hard as that was, and I can imagine I've been in situations that are not the same, but, similar, and just the amount of kind of the work that you have to do in your head of like, okay, this is unacceptable, and am I going to do this? Maybe I shouldn't. And then you just do it. And it's almost like that's where the record scratches.
Right.
And as hard as that was for you, man, is that a reality check for those guys, and the assumptions that they made. Chances are they remembered that, and hopefully they're behaving better these days. I don't know. But, for you to do that, it's probably like a weight, that's just kind of off your shoulders of like, okay, that's done, But then there's new things around, job security issues and things of that nature that I know a lot of folks who tune into the show struggle with. So, but what you're talking about too is like, even though you don't necessarily have a specific example of something that's like overt discrimination, what you're talking about of not always sharing, okay, I'm married, I have a wife, and, we have great kids and whatever, it's this act of covering where just because you're not doing that, you're not bringing your whole self because you might not be sure or safety. And that's a reality for so many people. It's like 75% of the people in the workplace, right? So
Oh, yeah.
it's a real thing and it's exhausting, right? And it takes away kind of what we could be, like similar to the example that you shared of, 60% of most people who are working a quote unquote 9 to 5, their time is wasted. I think there's a large percentage, and I don't know if there's studies out there of how much time is wasted or how much of our productivity is wasted because we're so busy worrying about covering things about really who we are because we're afraid that we're not going to be accepted. And as a business owner now, you get to change those things around. The fact that you're establishing your values and your mission, that's awesome. You get to change that. You get to drive culture in a positive way, which I love. So the flip side of that, right, is that you've got all these awesome lived experiences of being a part of the Rainbow family. And I'm wondering if you see any of those lived experiences as a superpower that allows you to stand out in business.
I think from my experiences, my superpower is that I always stick up for the underdog.
Mm-hmm.
If I see someone that I feel that's being treated poorly or unrationally, or I hear things in meetings that just aren't right, I let that be known. And I'm not worried about the ill effects it may have on me, because I feel that if people don't stand up for the people that can't stand up for themselves, nothing's ever going to change. And it's not about me. It's about something bigger than what we're all going through in this place. And I feel that if someone had that ability to do that for me when I was 20, some of the things that I'd gone through, I haven't gone through. And that's one of the things that's very empowering about being an entrepreneur now and owning my own business, is that I have the ability to do that a little more freely without the fear of repercussions, if you will.
Yep.
As that. And I think that, being out and gay and coming out and having these experiences is a big part of why I wanted to start my own business too. I mean, I guess I'd never thought about it until we just started having this conversation. Is I want to determine my own future and not on someone else's rules or thoughts or values or whatever that is. It's about me living my truth and helping other people live theirs, no matter what it is.
Yes.
Right. So I think that's just kind of part of what all this is about.
Yeah, I love what you were saying about determining your own future and the fact that being a part of the Rainbow family, you have that agency, you have that control, and you no longer have to kind of stuff yourself in a box that doesn't allow you to really shine and have your magic, like be fully focused on, your craft, and you're doing that, and you're able to also leave some breadcrumbs behind for other folks trying to figure out, how they can be more authentic in their work. And I appreciate that. I'm really grateful that you shared that, because it's so important. And that superpower that you're talking about of like stepping up for the underdog, it really resonates with, we've had over almost 140 guests on the show, and a lot of folks who've shared, their superpower, it's been along the lines of empathy, this idea that I might not have the exact same experiences as you, but I'm willing to try to step into your shoes to understand your experiences, your perspectives, your worldview. I think that makes all of us, more fully human when we can do that, when we flex that muscle, the empathy muscle. I think as business owners, it's so important, right? And especially, if you've got 350 people on your bench, at the bench, being able to do that is really powerful, because then you get the real genius of folks, because they know that you appreciate them for who they are. And that's I would love to see more workplaces like that, so you're a possibility model. So I thank you for that. So a few more questions for you. And this is more for, the folks that are just getting started in entrepreneurship or thinking about it, and especially for the folks thinking about it. What advice would you give them, just to consider taking that first step or the leap of faith to, to join us on this fun, magical path of entrepreneurship?
Just do it. You have to leap. You'll never know if you don't try. And I'm probably a horrible person to ask this question, because one of my mentors and favorite bosses from way back when he was doing one of my reviews, he said, "Jennifer, you're the type of person that I tell you to do something and I say, go get over that brick wall. You run right through it. You don't stand back. You don't figure out like how to strategize to get over the wall without hurting yourself. You just plow through. And that's kind of who I am. And I know that there's a lot of people out there that do not have that personality, that think about it. My business partner is one of them. And it's why we are business partners, because she's like, stop running. You're gonna break something. She really helps me out.
Yeah.
So, I think that if you're miserable at work, you hate what you do, or you hate who you do it with, you think you can make a difference in the world, you think you can make yourself happy, take the leap, because we're only here once. My mom died a few years ago, and I took time off to spend with her. And it's the same thing if you're with work. Time is the only currency you can't make more of.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So take the risk. You can always get a job where you can make more money, but follow your passion and don't live life with a what if hanging over you.
Yes.
So just do it.
Yeah. It's such, again, might sound simple, not as easy in practice, right? And
not at all.
Yeah. And I like that you talked about your business partner, right? And kind of how you all complement each other. And it reminded me of the book Rocket Fuel, which I've shared on the show before. But it's just like the idea of this magic combination of co-founders where you've got, the visionary, someone ready to just, jump in the race and go. And then kind of the implementer who's like, okay, here's how we do it. we see the vision, we know where we're going long term, but let's kind of chunk this up and have a plan as we go through. And I think that's a really good combination. So if you're thinking about getting started, if not a co-founder, someone in your life who can complement what your skill is, whether you're the implementer or the visionary. But I think that combination is really, really needed. So really good advice there. And my last question for you is where can we find you? Where can we learn about what you do? And, for those of us who are smaller, like you said, you work on a lot of different projects. What might be a service that some entrepreneurs just getting started might add value to them and as they build their businesses?
Sure. So if you want to find me, I think the easiest way to find me is on my LinkedIn page. It's just Jennifer Houston, spelled exactly like Houston. We just say it funny. And, I think that every entrepreneur is different, right? I'm in the marketing space. Tech startups and all that is very different from what we do. But if anyone needs any help or advice or just wants to spitball, I'd be more than happy to have a call with them and to talk to people. I would love to learn about what their idea is. Those things just make me better as a person, and to understand other people's businesses and thought processes would be so fun for me.
Yeah.
But if they are starting a business and need any marketing or branding, we're here for them and we can help them get it off the ground. For sure.
Gosh. Yeah. I'm currently in this phase of digital marketing, and my God, there's so much, so much to understand and learn. Is that one of the things that you all focus on, or is it kind of?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Cool. All right.
Yes.
Well, I'll be giving you a call. So hopefully other folks who are tuning in as well.
Yeah. I look forward to it.
Yeah.
I look forward to it.
Awesome. Very cool. Very cool. All right, Jennifer. Well, thank you again for spending so much time with us on the show and just sharing more of your story. It was super inspirational. And I always love just kind of learning about people's origin stories as they get started in their business. So I appreciate that. And for all of our guests who've tuned in, thank you again for another awesome week of The Out Entrepreneur. If you are interested in checking out the show notes, you can always visit us at outentrepreneur.com, or you could text OUTBOSS, all one word, to 444-999, and we will hook you up with those show notes. And as a next step, if you haven't subscribed to the show, consider subscribing where you consume podcasts, and take a step further and let us know what you think. Let us know what you like about the content, maybe potential guests you'd like to have on the show, etc. Always welcome feedback that way. And parting words for you is to keep being your authentic selves 100% of the time.